This is the sign of Project Hope, is the faulty thumb. It doesn't work.
Oh, your faulty thumb.
It's our sign of Project. We sign off like this at the end of every conversation. From South Africa to London, London to Leamington Spa, we sign off with this, the faulty thumb.
Because he can't do a full normal thumb. So he's been doing
Well, hold on a second. Hold on. Show me your normal thumb. Yeah. Yeah. Who's got the abnormal thumb? You or me?
I'm slightly bendy.
Yeah, so how do you see the project going forward from here, guys? Apart from the thumbing of Signally.
My latest thing is trying to get increase awareness and people on the bone marrow register, and I've focused on community hubs, i.e. places of worship, as the start-off point for this, mainly because they have the biggest community gatherings of people. So I have already got agreements from Sikh temples, mosque, and I'm looking to get agreements from synagogues, from churches which have ethnic minorities. The idea is to get more people on the bone marrow register, particularly young men and ethnic minorities, which are underrepresented in the actual bone marrow register. It's as simple as raising awareness that it only requires a mouth swab, and that actually giving bone marrow is not the inevitable painful process. In 9 out of 10 cases, it is a bit like giving blood.
Yeah, very important point.
The other thing is people don't realise, or people are ambivalent about it because they assume, oh, there'll be lots of people on the bone marrow register. Actually, there isn't. People are dying whilst waiting for a transplant. And that's a real tragedy. And I know of people who have succumbed, unfortunately, whilst waiting to have a bone marrow transplant because the right match isn't there. So the more people we can get on the bone marrow register, the more chance we have of curing blood cancer and saving a life. And having been on the transplant waiting list, you just don't understand. It's almost like you're waiting. It's a bit like it's a death sentence almost, and you feel so relieved when you're told, you have got a match. You've got hope. And it's a real miraculous feeling. I remember when I was told I had 10 matches, which was incredible. Throughout the world, I think I had a handful from India, America, Germany. So it's such a pivotal moment in the treatment of blood cancer, and we can all help. So I'm really appealing to people who are suitable to consider putting themselves on the bone marrow register. You will save lives. That's no two ways about it. But this is the part of the this is the next bit of focus that I'm trying to do. So by putting up posters of the Anthony Nolan Trust alongside our project, we're trying to raise awareness, and also I think with the mosque I've been invited to talk to people, so maybe have a question and answer session where I can talk, maybe dispel a few myths which might be putting people off. Some people might say, oh, by giving blood I will get weak, whereas we know in healthy people actually the bone marrow will manage to replenish itself within 2 to 3 weeks. So these sort of things are myths which I hope I could try and help and clear up.
Yeah.
I just listening to what you told me before, and that as well. I mean, I have been so under the assumption that to even register for something like a bone marrow database, someone would have to crack open my femur and take bits out of me. And when you said to me that the registration process is a mouth swab, and if one thing one can do here is to raise awareness about that in order to fill that database with names and contact details that could possibly save a life, then that is a fantastic thing. And all this wonderful social media that runs around the world talking about, it's all about raising awareness. If we can do that, then we've done something hopefully good. I see the project in sort of 3 phases or 3 parts now. It's that raising of awareness, it's the ongoing raising of money for the charities. And the book has been a vehicle for a couple of things, for Jaya's own desire to be in print, but also it stands robustly in its own right as a really beautiful book of poems and a work of art, I think. And I'd love to get it critically reviewed, and we're going to think of actually approaching our old English master to do that, and see if we can then get it approved, maybe even get it out to Goodreads, and then see about how one can use it as a vehicle for further awareness generation, fundraising, and getting the book out there in its own right. And I think this project can scale from that. But I also think, listening to you talk, I mean, you could go out there and talk about what it's like to face the disease you're facing and the prognosis you're facing. Because out there must be lots of people who are terrified and facing, and you talk so beautifully and so articulately, if that's a word, that you could do that, because there's fear everywhere. And I've learned through one thing in my own recovery that when you get together in a group and you talk about things, you are immeasurably stronger in a group of 20. You feel like you're as strong as 120 people, but on your own, you're not strong. No. And there must be times when you have felt utterly alone in this.
I have felt utterly alone, and that's a horrible feeling when you're sucked into a black hole of despair, sadness, grief, mainly thinking and ruminating about death, the fear of death, and as well as missing out on things like growing up, seeing your daughter grow up. Those sort of things just get you. But if you focus on that, you will end up on a vicious cycle of catastrophic and ultimately destructive thinking, that you actually end up breaking down from within. You have to stop, and you have to, this is where I found mindfulness very helpful in building from the current state. Enjoy the current state, build from the current state, and go from there. But you're right, there are times where it's very lonely. But as I've said before, I have a very low threshold for reaching out. I held out a hand, and it wasn't just, held, I was embraced. So I feel very lucky and privileged. And I've said this many times before, but I don't grow tired of saying it. I am very grateful for the way I've been loved for, cared for, and supported. And I hope, I will try my best to transmit that via the book or any other interactions that I have, be it on video logs or whatever it is. It is very important to transmit that sense of hope and gratitude, which I think we all have to hold on to. I think it'll be difficult when this current lot of treatment finishes. In a way, I've hung my hope on this drug in prolonging my survival. So I think it'll be an additional challenge when they say, right, treatment stop now. It's you and the disease and time. And that, I think, is going to be a scary transition. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. That's what I've learned over 3 years. There's no point in trying to fantasize or pretend what it might or might not be, because you'll be in a different state of mind. And hopefully the workbench of the mind by then will have processed these thoughts, so that by the time you reach there, you're better equipped to say, right, I've got perhaps the end game. I won't focus actually on the outcome, but on the here and now, and just enjoy life
Yeah.
as best as one can.
Thank you, John. It's really lovely to hear that. And